Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about 3 creepy true horror stories. Sit back and enjoy. I was house sitting for my grandmother one weekend while she was away in Florida with her church friends. Her house had 2 twin beds in the guest bedroom where I slept, and I usually picked the one next to the window. Before I went to bed, I checked that all the doors were locked and everything seemed secure. It was early, and I spent some time on my phone watching videos and texting friends. However, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Around midnight, I began hearing a woman's voice saying, "Hello," at intervals outside the house. It caught my attention and I decided to investigate. Slowly, I made my way towards the front door, trying to identify the source of the voice. The voice seemed to come from the front porch, which was visible through the dining room windows. I cautiously peeked through the plastic blinds, but it appeared that the woman on the porch knew I was watching her. She locked eyes with me, wearing a disturbing smile, and continued to repeat, "Hello." This woman appeared to be in her late 50s or early 60s, and there was something unsettling about her demeanor. I stepped away from the window, perplexed by her presence. I thought maybe she was one of my grandmother's friends, but her strange behavior and the late hour didn't make sense. Why wasn't she knocking or ringing the doorbell? And why was she just standing on the porch repeating, "Hello"? I returned to the guest bedroom and closed the door, hoping that she would leave. The silence that followed made me start to calm down. I texted my sisters and friends about the bizarre encounter, and they suggested I call my grandmother. However, there was no chance she would be awake at that hour, and she rarely checked her cell phone. As time passed, the silence seemed reassuring, and I started to relax. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a loud banging at the window. The woman had resorted to pounding on the glass, and I felt a surge of panic. After the banging stopped, she continued to say, "Hello." In response to this, I mustered the courage to lift the blinds and found myself face to face with the eerie woman. I screamed at her and threatened to call the police, and then I closed the blinds, my heart pounding. I fled upstairs to the guest bedroom and locked myself in. For some inexplicable reason, I decided not to call the police but to wait it out. I huddled in bed for a while, but unable to sleep, I eventually ventured downstairs to check outside every window. The woman seemed to have disappeared. The next morning, I called my grandmother and shared the details of the strange incident. She began to panic and told me about a recent encounter she had at a grocery store, where a woman about a decade younger than her had been smiling at her without any apparent reason. This detail gave me pause and intensified my concerns. My grandmother is 75 and has lost some of her cognitive faculties, so I often take her accounts with a grain of salt. However, the urgency and distress in her voice when talking about the woman at the store left me with a lingering sense of unease. I still wonder if these incidents could be related and hope that my grandmother remains safe from any potential threats. I'm Nicholas, a freshman at Syracuse University, situated in a neighborhood that's not known for its safety. Fresh off a breakup, I decided to dip my toes back into the world of online dating and matched with a girl named Stephanie on Hinge. We had quite a bit in common, both being Syracuse students, sharing interests like reading and movies, and having a similar sense of humor. We decided to go on a movie date, and Stephanie asked me to meet her at a specific location near campus where she would pick me up. It was around 9 o'clock at night when I arrived at the designated spot. She requested that I share my location with her, and I did so. A few minutes later, a car approached me, but to my surprise, it wasn't Stephanie who rolled down the window. Instead, an older man I'd never seen before inquired about what I was doing alone. This immediately struck me as odd. The man asked if I was waiting for Stephanie, and I confirmed that I was. I was curious how he knew about her, but he claimed to be her father and offered me a ride to meet her. His age seemed a bit advanced to be Stephanie's father, but I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. He explained that he wanted to meet me before letting me spend time with his daughter. Something about the situation didn't sit right with me, so I didn't get in the car. The man seemed surprised when I began walking away, calling out for me to get in the car. However, I knew the potential dangers of such a situation, so I briskly walked away in the opposite direction, keeping a wary eye on his car. He yelled to get my attention, but I was resolute in my decision not to go with him. After I'd walked a safe distance, I turned the corner and was relieved to see his car driving away in the opposite direction. My relief was short-lived as I heard a text notification on my phone. It was a message from Stephanie, asking why I didn't get in the car with her dad. I didn't respond, and continued walking towards campus, trying to put some distance between myself and the creepy situation. As I walked, I couldn't help but glance back to see if the man's car was following me. However, I noticed the same vehicle parked on the side of the road with its lights off. I tried to peer inside, but the windows were tinted, making it difficult to see if the man was inside. Another text message from Stephanie popped up on my phone, inquiring why I didn't join her father. Ignoring the message, I kept walking, occasionally glancing back at the parked car. For some reason, I had the nagging feeling that someone was following me. A few moments later, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me. I tried to shake off the paranoia, but it persisted. When I heard the crunching of broken glass being kicked by a shoe, I knew I was being followed. Ducking behind a van, I listened for the source of the approaching footsteps. I spotted the man, the same older individual who had posed as Stephanie's father, moving through the gaps between two parked cars. He shouted something that was barely comprehensible, but it sounded like an invitation to come back. He couldn't be more than 60 years old, and there was no way he could catch up to me if I ran. So, I sprinted away, losing him with ease, and made it back to my dorm room. Unfortunately, my roommate wasn't around to share this bizarre encounter with, but it was too unsettling not to report. As I lay on my bed, I received another text message from the man, in which he made a shocking threat and used abusive language. I immediately took a screenshot of the conversation, replying with a message that his threats were going to the police. After sending my response, I blocked his number, but I kept the conversation as evidence. I plan to contact the police about this disturbing incident, hoping they can take appropriate action. Stay safe, and always trust your instincts when something feels off. Your safety is a top priority. Back when I was 18, I had a part-time gig working as a janitor at my high school during the summer. I enjoyed the flexibility of working both day and night shifts, as it allowed me to make some extra money. On some nights, I had to lock up the building, especially when my coworker, Tom, had to leave early. It was a time before the school had installed cameras in every hallway, making it feel quite eerie when I was the only one there. I usually took advantage of this solitude by doing only about half an hour of actual work and then spent the rest of the time on my phone, or sometimes even left early, still getting paid for the full shift. I pushed the boundaries a bit, to say the least. On this particular night, Tom had to leave early, leaving me to finish the shift and lock up the building alone. Before he departed, he asked me to bring some extra seats from the gymnasium down to the basement storage room. I figured I'd do that and then head home. I gathered a stack of 6 chairs and began carrying them down to the basement. The lights in the storage room were quite dim, making the basement itself feel more like a warehouse. As I entered the room, I noticed several art mannequins covered by paint cloths, which were essentially large blanket-like covers. It appeared to be a storage area for various art supplies. I placed the stack of chairs with the others in the basement and returned to the gym to collect more. However, when I came back down with another set of chairs, I noticed that one of the mannequins was no longer concealed. The blanket had been removed. I was certain that it had been covered just a few minutes earlier. I texted Tom, saying that I thought someone was in the basement, and explained that one of the art cloths had been moved. Tom, taking a moment to respond, questioned what I meant. I replied that one of the art cloths had been moved, to which he replied that no one else should be down there. What I noticed next gave me chills. The art cloth in the corner of the storage room was now sitting outside the area illuminated by the central light. This was covering something, and it was moving ever so slightly. My heart raced as I cautiously approached the cloth. When I was just a few feet away from it, I noticed the blanket was shifting, indicating that someone was hiding underneath it. Panic surged through me, and I bolted back upstairs to lock the basement door. I texted Tom and urged him to return to the school. He hesitated and suggested that I should confront whoever was down there. I was reluctant, but eventually I decided to head back down. When I reached the basement, I discovered that the cloth was now lying flat on the floor, and whatever had been hiding underneath had disappeared. However, the most spine-chilling moment was yet to come. As I stood in the storage room, I heard loud metallic thumps coming from above, specifically from the large air vents situated overhead. I looked up and saw dents forming in the vents as someone or something was crawling through the ductwork. The sounds came to a halt right above me, and I noticed that there were indents in the vents, slowly forming from the weight of whatever was above me. The creature or person appeared to be trying to break through the floor of the air vents. Terrified and unsure of what was happening, I decided it was time to leave. I raced up the stairs, locked up the school, and went home. The next day I told Tom a partial truth. I mentioned that I thought I saw someone in the basement, but when I went back, they were gone. I didn't reveal the full extent of the eerie encounter. It was my last week working there, so I figured it was no longer my concern. The unsettling incident remained a mystery, leaving me with more questions than answers.